Um, as you are aware, you realize that the Disabled Employee Network, popularly known as DAN, was recently launched at Sightsavers, with the aim that it serve as a safe space for employees with disability at Sightsavers and also to serve as a source of expertise on disability to the organization. But I'm just wondering, as a leader of one of the countries with the largest program in Africa in Sightsavers, um, what are your thoughts on disability? Why is disability important?
Thank you, Razak. Disability is very important and it's part of very central to our work in Sightsavers. We're a disability-focused organization, and Nigeria is quite a large country. It's estimated that we have over 25 or between 25 to 35 million persons living with disability. In fact, the current registration for elections indicate that 19.5% of the persons who are registered to vote are persons with disability. And that is a huge number. And it tells you that that is a huge population that we need to cater for. So you can see that the statistics indicate that disability is quite important to us. And it is important that we are seen to be able to, let me say, walk the talk. That as an organization that is focused on disability, that we look at disability issues and we try as much as possible to ensure that we address the issues as it relates to persons with disability, putting them at the forefront and then supporting them from behind. So now let me just ask you, Razak, since you asked me a very interesting question, and like I would just say, as you know, I said earlier on that Sightsavers is a disability organization that our program and projects work focus mainly on that. I know that you have been involved in our economic empowerment work across Africa. Now, given that role that you've played over a number of years, what advice would you give to organizations to ensure that they support employees with disability to bring to bring out the best in them and to be able to thrive in the situations or an environment where they are not used to?
I think that's a quite interesting question in terms of the kind of support organization could give. From my own perspective, I think it starts with organization first identifying that people with disabilities are potential customers, are potential employees, or existing employees who could add value to the business, who could add value to their product, could add value to the communities they serve. It's also about organization understanding that support for people with disabilities is individualized and it's not a one size fits all. A couple of times people just presume, oh, if we do have a staff who is visually impaired, by default, he or she would want to make use of a screen reader. Whereas we've seen that some persons who are visually impaired might prefer to use a braille display. So sometimes people also assume, oh, any person who is deaf or hearing impaired would want a sign language interpreter, forgetting that there are some people who are hard of hearing and would rather prefer to lip read. So organization needs to understand that the kind of support they need to provide to staff or employees with disability has to be individualized and not a one size fits all. But there are more to it as well in terms of the policies of the organization. How are they working around that? I think that's the first point the organization is to. If they could realize that they could add value, if they could realize in terms of support that support to employees with disabilities, not a one size fits all, then the journey begins for many of this organization. As you know, the Disabled Employee Network then is created as a safe space for employees with disability to talk about anything they want to, things that could help them to work better and to improve the organization. my question is, how do you think we can build the inner confidence of employees with disability?
Thank you, Razak. I think there are two perspectives to this. One is the inner confidence of the person with disability itself. And two, what we as other colleagues in the workspace provide. As an organization, we take persons with disability very, very seriously. And we provide them with whatever they need to enable them to work well, whether it is equipment or the environment that they need, accessibility and all of that. That is very critical. We ensure that they go through a process that would enable them to feel very, very confident within their environment. But there is also the other aspect, which I think as an organization we need to build on, which is the other employees who are not persons with disability. We have to understand and respect persons with disability. We have to understand their needs. We have to provide that enabling environment in terms of the way we relate with them, in terms of the way we address them, in terms of being sensitive to their needs. For instance, you just don't walk into an office where someone is visually impaired and without knocking or making your presence known or talking to that person. I think that awareness needs to be improved on how to relate with persons with disability. That is what will build the inner confidence that I am in a place where I work, despite the fact that I am a person with disability. I still feel very confident because not just of the environment, but the people that I work with are very sensitive to the needs of persons with disability and ensure that we communicate and we relate in a way that will build my inner confidence. Now, but you have been with us for a while now, Razak, so it will also be good for me to hear your own personal experience. If you have any particular final words of wisdom that you think our employers out there who are just beginning to think about disability inclusion in the workplace, what they should prioritize in this area and what approach they should take to ensure that persons with disability feel very confident.
I think this is a very good one. This leader-to-leader conversation is quite important for us to start. First and foremost, for employers to take the journey and understand that disability inclusion in organization is a journey and not a sprint. I think that is very important that organizations need to first understand. And number two, to then understand that if you need to improve on including people with disability, some of the things which we best encourage is take that self-assessment. Yeah, for example, there is an ILO self-assessment that people can take to understand what's the current situation. Yeah, and that assessment gives them a kind of overall result of where they could move from and where they could move to. And then they could start with things like running a disability and accessibility audit of their building, of their policies, of their processes. And then gradually they could start thinking of how do we then start attracting talents with disability? How do we start retaining talent with disability? And how do we start removing the unnecessary bias? But as they do this, employers also need to know that they could work with, subject matter experts, organizations of persons with disability in their location to start helping them remove those unnecessary bias that could affect people with disability. It's a gradual thing. So we must encourage employers not to see it as a big chunk of work, but to see it from the point of progressive realization. And gradually we will all get there. But I would say thank you very much for this peer-to-leader conversation. Thank you very much for being one of the 10 leader champion across Sightsavers. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Razak.